New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, Tier 1s. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is Friday morning, and that means it's time for Ministers Talking Shit, the only program where we talk about politics, the news, and all that other shit nobody really wants to talk about. I hadn't planned that one, Z. That was a surprise to us.
Well, there's always enough to go around, so it's not like we're lacking for material, so or points of view or any of that, right? So it's interesting, and we were in the room, but just before we started trying to figure out the opening angle, and I just was reminded that the DOJ, right, Department of Justice, just terminated like 350 grants, and those grants were supporting programs like hate crimes and gun violence and opioid abuse, stuff that's just creates havoc in our society. And we've canceled them, which just continues. And I don't know how much people have heard about that, but I'm sure they've heard about all the challenges that the 47th administration and the Justice Department about immigration and deportation and all of these things is just an indicator that, to me at least, that the whole framework of our country is being restructured right now, and I can't believe that we still have people taking this as a spectator sport. They're just sitting on the background watching.
That's the hard part, right? Is that far too many people are treating it like a spectator sport right now. And I don't go on it every day, but the Project 2025 tracker, those numbers move every day, and every time I do look, there's more green. They've accomplished more things. There's the more of that agenda is being accomplished, and the DOJ and these moves by the DOJ are one of them. They've also was it last week or the week before did a thing with cryptocurrency and announcing that the DOJ is going to really relax their prosecution of crypto-related cases, which basically means we're going to let the con artists and the scammers continue to do what they're doing, stealing people's money. Right, it's condoning theft at that in not all, and right, and that's part of it is not all crypto coins, not all crypto initiatives, not all crypto is bad and ugly and nasty, but there is room for corruption there, and if the DOJ isn't doing anything about that corruption, well, that leaves it up to you and I and the people in the world to protect ourselves, to look out for ourselves, and to be even doubly cautious because there's going to be less and less repercussions for the con artists.
Well, and you know, I mean, there's so many things. The 100 day is you know, we've had the 100 day for Trump, and we look at some pivotal pieces like the Justice Department. We look at the stock market and the economy and how it has been playing yo-yo, right? And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that there are some Trump cronies, if you will, that made tons of money on these ups and downs, because there were always some kind of signals that he was giving. He would make these statements and then the market would drop, and he'd make these statements and it would rise about the tariffs. And so, you know, it's, to me, it's a classic example of cronyism and the rich getting richer and taking advantage of the poor. And we're moving in these directions where, you know, we've always talked about our young people and we're going to save the, you know, the earth and all of that. But we got to save everything because they can't afford housing. The planet is in turmoil. The Justice Department is in turmoil. So we have to begin to become active, however that is, because this, imagine we still got basically 4 years of this, and he's just getting warm.
He's just, yeah. Yep. I saw another one. What was it? The Democrats put, I forget which bill it was, but the Democrats added a ton of addendums, additions to the bill. Things they knew couldn't win, but the Republicans were being forced to vote on them. So it put the Republicans on record as being against these different things. And I wish I had that article pulled up. But and the I forget who it was again. The Democrats spearheading the whole thing. Basically, it was like, we know these can't win. We don't intend for them to win. We're putting them in there, and maybe it was in the budget bill. We're putting them in there so that we can get the Republicans on record voting against them, so there's proof of what's happening here. Mm-hmm. Because in a lot of ways, and we were talking about this, a group of us were talking about this at dinner last night, that it's the budget bill right now that we have to oppose the most. We can't let, as Democrats, we can't let that budget bill move forward if you believe in an equitable and just government, because that budget bill don't do that. And so we have to obstruct in the little ways, in every ways possible, every way, every day, and be a thorn in the side, if nothing else.
Well, you know, and the thing that scares me the most is all of the agencies that they're going after, right? They've dismantled the DEIB programs.
Yep.
They've dismantled and continuing to dismantle Department of Education. The director of the National Science Foundation. We're talking about, we want to compete with all these companies that making the chips and stuff, but the National Science Foundation, which is a $9 billion institution, the guy just resigned, and Trump has put in one of his cronies to oversee that, to run $9 billion of science stuff. Now, if we're saying, if we got a vaccine doubter running the Health and Human Services, and all these things that we need to really shore up, what are we doing? What we the institutions, education, science, medicine, fairness, equity, all the things that this country prides itself on being innovative and being welcoming and being inclusive, all of that's being destroyed. And whether it's a play game or not, the people who normally play with us are getting tired. And so, yeah, I used to buy soybeans from you, but you took too long to figure out what you were doing. So I found a better price and a better relationship and a shorter shipping range and route.
Yep.
I don't care what you do to your soybeans. I'm not coming back. Our farmers are going to get slammed this summer. And we're going to get slammed because our prices are going to be so high, or there won't be any produce that we're gonna pay a price.
Yeah. I speaking with some Canadian friends this week so far. And we've been kind of joking that they said for the first time in their lifetime, they had concern. They said you always play it smart when you cross a border, even from Canada to the U.S. You always pay attention. You don't do stupid stuff. You don't forget and leave an orange in your backpack. You don't do those things. But sharing that this was the first time ever there was like concern that you could be stopped or detained or questioned for no real reason other than the fact that you're crossing a border. And yet, yes, border agents have always had that authority. They've always been able to just, indiscriminately based on the officers, the training and senses and whatever they want to, right? They've always had that ability to do it, but this is the first time they've ever been concerned that they could be a target of it, I guess is how we want to say it. Right. And we are creating ramifications that could last a long, long time.
And on May 7th here, speaking of travel, the real ID kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have an ID with the little star on it, or I think in California there's a little bear, but there's an emblem star, and that if you don't have that at an airport trying to travel, you're gonna either not be able to fly, or you can use a passport, but other than that, you're gonna need Social Security card and all of that. So I don't know if this was intended for illegal aliens, if you will, but they won't be able to get a real ID. So if they're trying to fly somewhere, they won't be able to fly. Or if they get there and they start questioning them, they're going to start taking people away. So it's another mechanism, I believe, because my old ID worked just fine. Well, I don't understand and I'll have to go research. What is the difference between the old ID and the real ID? What does the real ID?
Most of it, I believe, is like digital tracking and such. So there's a bigger database of who you are and where you've traveled and and the truth is, right, modern IDs have a scan bar on the back. There are various stores and places in Colorado where they'll scan your ID to prove you're of age, and so that people don't have to rely on the picture and the figuring out the date. They can just scan it, and the computer tells you, yeah, this person's of age, or no, they're not of age. Recently, my ID actually expired on my birthday this past December, and I tried to use it the day after, and I'm sorry, Mr. Brzezinski, but this is expired. We can't use this. It's like, oh, yeah, all right. But because of these systems, now here's the payoff, right? Because of these systems, I was able to log onto a website, prove my identity through the website, which could all be done on my phone, pay the renewal fee, and within a half an hour, I had a new digital ID that is good anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I now have a digital ID with the state of Colorado that I can scan, that is a real ID, and I can scan my phone at the airport rather than even carry my physical card with me. I don't like that. I'm still a little old school, so you're gonna take me to the grave kicking and screaming before I give up my physical ID of right. But it's, yes, all these things do seem to on the surface level, they appear to be great initiatives to combat what is being called illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm still a guy that likes to believe in a world without borders and think that immigration is just part of the natural way. However, in the political system we're in, we have illegal immigration. These systems appear to be combating that concern. However, my concern is a lot of innocent people are going to get caught up in the turmoil.
Oh, without a doubt.
There are a couple of 2 or 3 states, I think, that still, and part of the reason we haven't even gotten to the real ID until now is because of states that have drugged their feet and resisted the effort to move to the real ID, putting a lot of everyday people at jeopardy of not being able to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those like inalienable rights we like to think we have in the United States is the freedom to travel,
right,
to move about the country without restriction or illegal immigration stops.
right. Well, and I mean, I think we should definitely be able to identify a person, to say a person is who they are. If not, we get credit card fraud and all these other things.
And if
How
we can
it's
come up with
rolled out.
some real hard evidence that a guy like Abrigo Garcia is truly a Venezuelan gang member here as a undercover mole for the Venezuelan gangs, if that is absolutely proven true with due process, with all the things, all the rights we expect for anyone in this country, then yes, deport. Right, deport and prison and whatever it is, punish and others as well, because he's not the only one. We're seeing more and more stories of people that are being labeled as illegal immigrants from MS-13 or Tres de Agua, the Tres de Agua in Venezuela, right? These momentary labels and branded names that they've created for us to think of, to believe in. If you can prove it, okay. But if you can't, that erodes everyone else's rights.
Yep. And as always, it becomes a slippery slope, right? Because you do something that you are trying to perpetrate, if you will, on one group of people or on one situation, but it's a slippery slope before it gets everybody, or it gets the people that you don't intend it to affect, because everything is fluid, everything is moving, right? And so when that's one of the supposed benefits of a democratic or democracy, is that there's these two sides, these 2 points of views that debate and bring evidence and talk things through to make it through the ups and downs of life, if you will. But when both sides that are supposed to be set as a balancing point are diametrically opposed, nothing's going to happen. We're going to swing from one extreme to the other extreme, and it's going to be a complete mess. And that's what we have right now, a complete mess. We keep swinging backwards and forth. The people who are so-called the leaders are benefiting, even if it's not monetarily, they're benefiting from, ancillary benefits and whatever else.
Right.
And the people in the middle who they're supposed to be protecting and keeping aware and so forth and so on are getting hammered.
Yeah. The insider traders, right? Politicians don't go broke. Even when they, right? Exactly. I hear what you're saying, man. The pendulum swings left and right, and all those politicians are soaking up the fat on both sides of the swing. Doesn't matter whether they're playing the victim or the victor, they're playing the inside of the market. So, folks, if you wonder what you've wandered into here, this is Ministers Talking Shit. It happens every Friday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. I personally am on Central Time this morning, so it doesn't feel like I got any extra sleep, though. I'll tell you that, Z. So glad you're with us, folks. Tune in, like, share, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff. Feel free to chat along, chime along, and join in the conversation. And, speaking of the conversation, Z, I think I would be completely remiss, even though this is more like your topic than mine, I think we would be completely remiss if we didn't talk at least a little bit about the NFL draft, especially as we're both here in Colorado, and Shador is still sitting on the table, as it were, sitting there on the chopping block, waiting to be picked up, and more. What did you learn from the NFL draft this week?
Well, there were 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round. The first one was the first one off the board. That was Cam Ward out of Miami. It could have easily been at the very beginning. The counterpoint was it going to be Cam or was it going to be Shador, right? Because they're both good talents. And they kind of gave it to Cam, and so they let that go. Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter, went number 2 in the draft. As a matter of fact, Jacksonville I forget who they traded with, who was in that second spot. Maybe it was New York, I think it was, or Cleveland Browns had the second choice. Yep. And the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up to get
Travis
Hunter, yep. Right? And so then there were a whole bunch of other teams, New Orleans and a couple other teams who could have used a quarterback. None of them got it. And so now Shador will go in the second round, and hint, Aaron Rodgers, who was expected to go in the first round, actually wound up going in the second round. Had a wonderful career. I just think, to be honest, I think between his father and how he displays his confidence in his skills may have turned some people off. Unfortunately, because his dad ain't gonna play it down. He might get in the ear, but he ain't gonna play it down. And who, as a Hall of Famer, Deion Sanders, a legitimate 2-sport athlete, he played real baseball. We got some other guys. He played some seasons and had some stats in baseball and football. Played both ways in the NFL. Played offense and defense as a starter with Dallas. He has an opinion and some knowledge and some facts some other people may not have. And for him not to give his son good advice or whatever would be, I pick a word. I mean, there's a bunch of them. I'm not even going to pick one for you. So it'll be interesting to see today if he gets picked. And it'll be more interesting to see if his other son, Shiloh, gets in. I don't know if he'll be drafted. He may go in as a free agent, but it'll be interesting to see.
Maybe, yeah. How'd the Broncos do?
The Broncos, they got a defensive back, if I'm not mistaken. They got a cornerback. They got a cornerback out of Texas. Okay, and we had a pretty good defensive back core with Satan, and forget the other one there right now. But I mean, you can't in this league now. you cannot have enough good defensive backs, right? Because it's a throwing game, right? So you got to have somebody that's going to catch them balls and intercept them and tackle and whatever. But we need a running back. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a good running back. We need a marquee running back, somebody that's big. We got the small guy that's really good, but we need somebody like a Emmitt Smith caliber or Marshawn Lynch kind of caliber who's going to come in and really open up the passing game.
There we go. Beautiful. All right, folks, that is our sports roundup for the season. We'll be back around Super Bowl time to let you know how it all played out.
Yes.
Now back to our regular shit talking.
Yeah. And one of the things that's heavy on my mind is like Doge. Supposedly, Doge should be shutting down pretty soon, right? Speaking of things ending, the draft will be ending on Saturday. Doge should be ending very soon as well, because that position is only like 180 days, 185 days for those special appointments.
I think it was 130 actually.
Okay. And Tesla is losing money like the Titanic going down.
I saw careful with that analogy. I did research to see if it was real. So folks, if this was not real, please tell me, because otherwise Elon says if the ship of America goes down, Tesla will go down with it. Wait a minute, dude. Wait, whoa. Aren't you supposed to be the guy that's going to make sure we don't go down in the first place? I don't give a shit if your car company goes down with us. like your car company is, we got to save Tesla. Tesla's not going to save the world. And if America goes down, Tesla will go down with it. Oh, wow. Do your friggin' job. You're there to supposedly not let that happen. Isn't that what Doge is all about? Every day I gain less. Every day I have less and less respect for that man.
Yeah, when you think about it, when if you have any reference points to historical reporting and historical government behavior, for this dude to come on stage with a chainsaw,
that too, yeah,
and basically mock people losing their jobs and going into financial distress is just the weirdest thing, for lack of a better word, that I've ever thought that could ever happen in this country in terms of government, and then portraying that stuff on TV for the whole world to see, the buffoonery and the antics and dramatics that we are stepping into right now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And so when he tells me, I think the one, I don't know all these numbers, they play with them, but they were saying like 71% he was down, which doesn't sound right. But I know he's lost a lot of money on those cars, and that Cybertruck thing that was supposed to be the savior is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it looks like a tank. It looks like a military Humvee ready to go to war. So we're in trouble in that we've allowed our system and way of life to become a soap opera or a reality show or some, drama. And we've got addicted. I think a lot of people don't pay attention because we're used to looking at these dramas, these 2.5, 3 hour movies, if you can sit that long, that they have a conflict and a protagonist and they wrestle around, and then in 3 hours or less, they solve the problem and everything is good. Well, that's not real life.
Right.
And so we got to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And from all reporting I've seen, that number 71%, yes. Tesla stock has dropped 71% from its high in December of 2024, and they're saying that's close to 800 billion, right? That the value of that is close to $800 billion of investments lost for those. So, if you own Tesla stock, I'm sorry. Sorry for you. And I know you can't get out because you can't get anywhere. You're so far in the hole, you can't afford to sell that stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't want to be driving Teslas. I saw one just a day or two ago, right? It had sticker on the back, the Elon Musk Haters Club. That they're driving a Tesla, an older model Tesla, so they probably had it a while, but can't get out of it at this point. Nobody wants to buy them, and one of my shorts that I follow is a car dealer. And 4, 5, 6 months ago, this guy was selling cyber trucks like they were going out of style, and now he won't touch them. He doesn't have any on his lot. He doesn't want to buy any, right? And if your influencer car dealers aren't buying your product, I don't think anybody is.
Yeah. And it's a shame in my mind, because I actually drove a Tesla. I went to see my daughter, and I rented a car, and the Tesla, they were renting them cheaper than anything else they had on the rental lot. So I rented it for a weekend in San Diego, and it was a nice ride. I mean, that sucker was smooth, had great pickup.
Yep.
There was no outside noise. I mean, you were in a nice little environment when you're driving. That dashboard thing with the big old iPad on it was amazing for tracking. And I had never been driving around San Diego. It was easy to get around. And it's a shame that the personality of the founder and owner of this company has destroyed its brand, at least temporarily.
Yeah. I have to correct you though. Owner, not founder.
Oh, okay.
Owner. He bought that Tesla from a couple of guys. But yeah, it is because we're cutting off our nose to spite our face in some ways here, that America needs the electric vehicle. We need to get off of fossil fuels. It's evident. You can see it. Anybody with half of an eye to see can see that fossil fuels is not a sustainable modality and not a sustainable avenue. And if we can't get onto electric, we're in trouble, and we're vilifying the electric vehicle because of basically one man. Yes, it's a shame.
Yeah.
And it's another place where we're going to be called to do our work, where spiritual folk, new thoughters, those of us that follow unity and the science of mind and divine science and all the various branches, Agape, Hillside, UFBL, all the various branches of new thought at this point, it's time for us to flower together and stand together. My understanding is Reverend Bishop William Barber is going to start doing, I heard this yesterday also, is going to start having a monthly march on Washington, the first Monday of every month, moving forward. Bishop Barber is going to gather troops and have a march on Washington. And there are more and more, as we kind of spoke about earlier, there's more and more people that are starting to stand up in some sort of resistance to what's going on. And I think we're going to start to see more active, regular demonstrations, maybe not huge numbers, but regular pressure-oriented demonstrations, a constant vigilance to speaking a good word. I think you're going to start seeing that in more and more places around the country.
Well, and you talking about energy and stuff. You reminded me of this story I heard yesterday or the day before about here in Colorado and some other places around the country. They are looking at geothermal energy, and I was listening to NPR, and they had this some couple is buying a house, and they're setting it up to be, run by geothermal, right? Because here we got a lot of hot springs and stuff, so there's a lot of geothermal activity here. It's a little, and they were saying it's a little expensive, but it's a clean way to do it. It's they were saying it's sustainable. I got to dig more into it. I was intrigued, but you just made me think about it when you were talking about the different energy sources that we have available to us. There's a lot of growing wind farms here in Colorado when that wind comes off those mountains, creating lots of kilowatts, I'm sure. So we really have to begin to get intrigued and curious about how we solve problems and not get too caught up in all of the, I mean, we got to pay attention to the craziness, but not get caught up in it so that we get paralyzed and don't do anything.
Not get distracted by the craziness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun to go to the circus once in a while. And it's fun to laugh at the clowns once in a while. And it's fun to see if the jugglers are going to drop the balls. And it's fun to see if the bear is going to eat the motorcycle guy in the ball of death type thing, right? It's fun, but we cannot be so distracted that all we do is watch the circus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have to look at what's going on behind the circus. We have to look at what and how we can contribute to creating a world that we want to see, a world that works for all, the world we talk about so often. And we're going to come back to community. We're going to come back to building systemic, multi-systems, small communities, medium, larger communities, but we've got to start thinking from that systems point of view. You talk about it all the time. How are we putting together? And we have an opportunity right now to put together a new system because the old systems are being ripped apart whether we like it or not. And I think there's an opportunity to be involved in the conversation of how we put together new systems.
Yeah. And there's places like the Science Foundation that's under threat that would teach that principle of systems and entropy and how things evolve, and that, let's look at the system called you. Your body has evolved and changed since the time you were conceived. And so to ignore that wisdom that we've had for eons of what systems do and how they change and evolve, is going to be our downfall if we can't get a handle. Yep. And spiritually, that's what we're taught to do.
Mm-hmm. Linda's with us. I want to say good morning. Yes, Linda, Colorado has some great geothermal potential. I think Colorado is one of those places that has a unique opportunity to blend a number of different solar, wind, geothermal, right? Colorado is already in the process of closing down the last coal-fired electric plant in the state. We will be coal-free here relatively soon, and I think we can continue to expand the efficiency, but also the capacity that we have for alternative energies. Colorado and across the West, so many places. Heck, Yellowstone. We just start. Maybe that's how we solve the Yellowstone thing. Is just siphon all that heat off and pump it into Montana and Idaho, Utah. Yeah. All right. That's a story for another day, folks. We're going to wrap it up here for today. It's a beautiful Friday. I'm sure you've got lots to do, and we've got lots for you to do. If you like, please stick around here on the New Thought Media Network. Get Rich 101 with Say Crew Writes is up next. At 8:15, it's our morning prayers. 8:30, it's the morning sip with Rev Melissa. 9:30 is Spanish language prayers. Later today, remember, it's the High Vibe Hour with Rev Skip and Reverend Cynthia out of Las Vegas. That's at 11 a.m. The Joy Show at 1. The Good News at 5. And 6 o'clock is Pastor Michael Mangus and the Fireside Chat. It's always a full day here on New Thought Media Network. We wrap it all up at 8:15 with our evening prayers as well, so stay tuned for that. Also, it is Friday, and tonight is the gala grand opening for the Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation. If you are not already at Unity Village or making your way here, well, we have an alternative for you. You can head over to the Science of Mind website and sign up for a live stream. A $25 donation gets you access to the live stream. We'll be live streaming the gala this evening beginning at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. That will be for those that have, if you just head over to their website, scienceofmindarchives.org. You'll find a $25 donation, gets you the link so you can join us and tune in and see some amazing people and some amazing music and some amazing speakers. Reverend Jesse Jennings is here. Karen Drucker is here. Dr. Ken Gordon is here. Reverend Sonny Cantrell Smith will be on. Dr. Tracy Brown is with us and will be on. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you keep an eye on New Thought Media Network, maybe about an hour or so prior, so let's say 5 o'clock Mountain, or 5 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Central, you might just catch a pop-up red carpet interviews with some of our esteemed colleagues and the people here this weekend. So we'd love to see you tune in, support our friends over at the Science of Mind Archives. Z, final thoughts. Let's get out.
Final thoughts is stay tapped in, tuned in. And once you figure out what you're going to do, turn on to that thing, because we need your support. In addition to your prayers and your financial support, we need everything to create this world that works for everything and everyone and everybody and all that there is.
Mm-hmm. I'm reminded, Z, that if everything works out in the end, so if everything ain't working out, it ain't the end.
Yeah.
We got time. We're going to get to work, folks, and build a new thought perspective in the world, and bring a more cohesive, systemic new thought consciousness to everything, and we're in good hands. All is going to be well.
Yep.
Until next time, let's wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.